If I Were a Dragon and You Wanted Cake by Fisher Dickens. Read by Fisher Dickens. This book is dedicated to knowing we are all one in this together. Written, illustrated, and published by Fisher Dickens. I wrote this book in 2012. If we were both monkeys and you came to play, we'd swing and we'd tumble and laugh the whole day. If we played a game with a ball and a bat, we would both wear the same kind of hat. If you were an elephant and I were a mouse, we both wouldn't fit in my tiny house. If I were a flower and you were a bee, I'd feed you my nectar from the middle of me. If I were a dragon and you wanted cake, I'd blow fire on some batter and that cake would bake. If we both had the same father and mother, we'd be related. We'd be sisters or brothers. If you were a bug working and needed to stop, I'd give you a drink by being a raindrop. If you were a storm and I a window open wide, I'd have to close me to keep you outside. If you were snow and a lot of you did fall, I'd pack you all together and become a snowball. If you rained and rained, when you were done, I'd be the rainbow that came out with the sun. If you got too hot in the sun where you played, I'd be a cloud and you'd sit in my shade. If you were a road and I were a truck, on you I'd drive so I'd never get stuck. If I were a tree with lots of leaves, you'd make my leaves flutter by being a breeze. If you were a bird and I were a nest, I'd be the place you'd want to rest. If I were you chirping and you were that bird, we'd make the best music that ever was heard. And if I were music, you'd be a drum, so we'd play together and people would hum. If you were a stream and I were a fish, you'd flow and I'd swim to wherever we wished. If you were the earth and I were a star, I'd shine down on you from above really far. If you began to cry because you fell in the dirt, I'd be hugs and kisses until you didn't hurt. If I were a tear and you needed to cry, I'd roll down your face to your chin from your eye. If you were some soup in a big pot, I'd turn on the stove to keep you hot. If you were an airplane and I were the sky, I'd stick all around you so you could fly. If you were a house and wanted to give rooms to stay in, that's where I'd live. If you were a gopher and needed to dig, I'd be the hole you could make really big. If you were a dog and I were a stick, you could chase after me and then do a trick. If you were a teacher who worked in a school, I'd be your student. That would be cool. If you were a horse that became a unicorn, I'd be your head and I'd grow your horn. If you were daytime and I were night, I'd be the darkness and you'd be the light. If you were paper and I were pens, we could write letters to all of our friends. If you were sleepy, I'd be a pillow on your bed, so when you laid down you could rest your head. If you were a story with no more to say, I'd be the end until the next day. The end.